This is Haymaker Combat Sports. Hear it here, coming straight from the source. Only with the real, they ain't here to dress it up. Sweet science, MMA, you can get it all from us. Trust, 5 stars cause it's live. And through the fight game, we can guide ya. Slick talking, putting them in caution. Passing all the guards cause the audio is awesome. What you waiting for? Spread the word, tell a friend. This the podcast where all of the discussion ends. When they start going strike for strike, this the show that'll tell you what you seen in the fight. And they ain't playing on the mic, this a welcome to the show. Warm it up for the squad, Haymaker of the bros. I'm a bow wow, you can hear it from the pros. It's Haymaker Combat Sports, time to roll.
And welcome back to Haymaker Combat Sports. I am your host, EJ Reed, joined by my fellow host, Steve Johnson. We got producer Jay behind the scenes and out on bail, fresh out of jail, Kansas City dreaming. Aaron Admire, man. I think this is the first show we've done since you've officially been a free man. How's it feel?
I think so. I think this is the first fight card I get to watch live.
Yes, indeed. I don't know, did we... Because I think, before we had our last show, I think you were still doing one more weekend. Any crazy stories before you got out of there?
No. About the craziest thing is there was a guy in jail. He was fresh in there for beating a child, man. And people got a hold of his statement where he admitted it to the detective and this and that. So, it's written on the wall. He's guilty, man. And he's just walking around there like nothing's wrong. Like he didn't do anything. Like I knew all this stuff because I was only going in on weekends. And I just avoided the guy. He kept trying to talk to me. I wouldn't have nothing to do with him, man. But everybody treated him normal. Like, I don't know, man. Like you always hear these stories about, people that mess with kids, man, they get fucked up in there. Dude, I was in there with child molesters. This dude that put his hands on a 5-year-old kid and gave this kid brain damage. And nobody gives a fuck. And
that's crazy.
I'm just a weekender. If I was a long timer in there, I would have, done something, but can't do it when I'm just doing weekends.
You think it's because it's not like prison, it's just jail? You think maybe once they get to prison, it's over?
Yeah. I think that had a lot to do with it. Is a lot of the people that are in jail, they're awaiting trial or, they're serving their little short jail time. They don't want to mess that up. But yeah, county jail, that's an easy place for those type of people.
If I was a CO and I knew a slime ball like that was in there, I just turn my eye or turn my head and just...
Yeah,
justice take care of it.
and that dude's out on bail right now. Like his dad posted a $25,000 cash only bail. So the dude's out running the streets now.
His dad did?
Yeah.
That's the father of the year.
You got to have a lot of faith in your kid when there's a written statement of him admitting it, man. But it just goes to show if you got money, you can fucking do anything.
And those dudes probably got serious mental problems, but no excuse. I mean, they say hurt people, so he probably got beat by the guy who bailed him out. He probably beat him as a kid.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
Yeah, man. The jail's supposed to be a rehabilitative system, but they don't rehab those guys in jail, which what they probably really need.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's pretty messed up. But... we're here today to talk about some MMA guys. It seems like forever since we did a preview show. I think the last UFC was early September, wasn't it?
It seems like it was a long time ago. I think there was a couple small fight nights in between, but nothing too big.
Yeah, me and Steve did something for the Noche. If anybody's listening right now, go back and listen to that. And then we did a boxing, but it hasn't been a UFC pay-per-view in a little minute. But before we get into the pay-per-view, let's talk about some stories inside or out of the cage, because a lot has happened since we last talked. And y'all probably know what I'm going to bring up. The UFC and USADA are no longer an item after an 8-year relationship. And this article comes from The Guardian. The UFC is moving on from the United States Anti-Doping Agency and creating its own drug testing program in a feud that involves who else? Conor McGregor. The mixed martial arts organization also sent a letter to USADA that demand a retraction and apology statement issued Wednesday regarding the end of this deal with the UFC. And now they're setting up their own testing system. It's called the Drug-Free Sport International, and they're being charged by former FBI special agent George Pirro. Ah, man, it's a lot to unpack with this, but what are y'all first thoughts on this story?
Right. Well, for me, of course, from the way I read it, UFC wanted USADA to bend the rules for Conor McGregor. They didn't want McGregor to have to go into the 6-month testing pool. And I mean, from what you just said, it sounds like that's true. My second thought is, remember when all this went down? I think it was WWF back then, before it was WWE, when, steroids, wrestlers are on steroids. So they were going to create their own testing. And I don't know about you guys, but my first thought when they did that was, well, you're just going to let them keep doing it. They're the ones making you money. So how are you going to be honest about their testing? So I kind of think the same thing. UFC you can't be the tester if you're the employer. You know what I mean? Because
it's like a big conflict of interest.
That's a big conflict of interest. So, let's say the UFC right now was doing their own testing. They would allow McGregor to be less than 6 months if they were in charge, because they're asking USADA to do it. So this is saying that fighters don't always necessarily have to be clean.
Steve, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I guess it shows how much of investment McGregor is, and what are the odds and the timing to where USADA gets switched, specifically when Conor's ready to be initiated into the pool. You see other sports and they talk about it being rigged and stuff like that. And I say the only way you can rig it and things like that, or, call off fights and maybe masquerade injuries. But the thing I like about the UFC is it's still real. You can't fake those knockouts. But on the expense of the athlete, oh man, I think it's a, like you said, conflict of interest, a loophole. And like I said, the integrity of the sport, if somebody's really analyzed it, it leaves a little gray area to where why is Conor McGregor, as soon as he enters the pool, we switch a whole nother medical agency as far as doping agency. And I think it's all at, I don't think everything's a coincidence, and I don't think this one is. I think over the years, I think investment's been hurt, and a lot of if there isn't any rigging or anything like that, if there is, there's been a lot of under the table fixing, if not so.
Yeah, so I don't know. I've been busy this week, so I hadn't really gotten to do a deep dive on this story. But Am I or Steve, what were they trying to do for Conor to, kind of go around USADA? What was the UFC's gripe behind this?
Just saying. So I don't know if McGregor is in the testing pool. Last I heard he was, but we've been talking about it for several shows. Is the UFC 300 event is coming up, which the UFC goes all out for the big 100s. So they need McGregor probably to be able to fight February.
300 would be around May or June.
Depends on what they have planned and set up. I'd have to see what they have scheduled, but I don't know that 6 months, if he's not in the pool now, so 6 months puts him at April, so I don't know if they don't want to cut it close or whatever. The UFC could have got around this and swept it under the rug just by having McGregor fight overseas, because they don't have the same gaming regulations overseas. That's like when Pride was in Japan. Everybody was on steroids because they don't test for that stuff. So they could have had McGregor fight in an event overseas, but they're not going to do that because you don't get the same size crowds as here. So they need McGregor to fight here. So I think they're just trying to cover it up. And if you pay attention to the guy, he's always out partying. Like, you can't tell me that dude's not putting something in his body.
So with the Pride though, I don't think Pride was regulated. I think they had in-house regulations, so that's why they got away with a lot of stuff. So even if he fought overseas, I think, you know, USADA is a third-party company, so they could still catch him. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because he's, like you said, maybe it'd be cutting it too close. If he were to do it now, it wouldn't be till April. Maybe I don't see what the big deal is if he entered now and making it towards that UFC 300. But like you said, maybe they wanted him to fight a little sooner. Maybe they wanted him to fight February. But yeah, I don't know if you know more about it, Steve.
I don't. I know Dana had a press conference speaking about it. And I think the previous president, I guess, so to speak, of USADA had a sort of defense on why they weren't the agency to do it anymore. And more of I didn't click on it, but it seems like more of accusations and defense on. I guess it was more of being fired as an agency and defending the company. I didn't see exactly why though, or the complaint.
The way when I first read it, when it first hit the news, the way I read it is USADA was actually leaving the UFC, and they had felt like it was because the UFC was trying to get them to bend the rules. That's the way I read it initially. I don't know if the story's changed or anything, but to follow up about the UFC 300 thing, so the farthest out they have scheduled right now is UFC 296, and that is December 16th. So if they went, 297, 298 in late December, because they usually do a New Year's Eve around there. They usually have like a Super Bowl card end of January. So it could be putting UFC 300 in that end of March, early April, if they book enough events.
Well, you said 296 is December, right?
296 is December.
They've been skipping that New Year's Eve card lately, I guess, because of Madison Square Garden, which would put 98. That would be in January, probably 99 in February. Well, I guess that would be like around March then. Yeah, so that's probably why they were trying to skirt around it. Huh. Interesting. I got a question for both of y'all. Has this partnership with USADA been a success or a failure? Because it's been mixed reactions with this partnership ending from the fighters. I did a little bit of research on it. Just come across my feed here and there. I think John Jones was like basically shitting on USADA, saying that he got caught with a picogram. And I think Matt Brown, I think I saw something from him. He had his reservations about UFC putting their own program in place. So y'all think this partnership with USADA was a success or a failure?
To me, it was a success. If you go back before USADA, it used to be every event somebody popped dirty. I mean, there was people popping up dirty all over the place, and then it really slowed down when they came in. So to me, it was a success.
I would say yes, because just like certain crimes, even if you didn't do it, you don't want to be accused of certain crimes. And I guess in the MMA world, being accused of steroids, even if it was because I can understand you'll eat something and, I mean, we'll go to the grocery store, everything's contaminated, let alone trying to go to a drugstore. Hear Joe Rogan say they don't clean the bins, mixed, and then you popping for something that you didn't even, and it's really, and as we see, Yoel Romero won a big case just for that. And I think that's what a lot of fighters don't see, the positive side of that, more of the negative. And I think it almost abuses the integrity of not only the company, but the fighters individually. It seems in the MMA world, nobody wants, it's almost like a sin. You don't want to be accused of that. and then everybody's gonna, whether it was intentional or not, be accused of that is not a no in MMA.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, what was the alternate to USADA having relaxed testing stuff? Like that would have just made more steroids in MMA. So, I mean, I think it was good all the way around. John Jones, he's had his fair share of problems. What he blamed it on boner pills, then he blamed it on supplements and this and that. He was in trouble because of the shit he did. It wasn't USADA's fault.
And on top of that, I feel like they can be more lenient. And I don't think, I'm not a steroid expert, but I mean, damn, how close can it be an accidental dosage from a supplement from GNC versus somebody trying to mask it and it looks like an accidental? Like, I mean, you can tell the difference when somebody's taking steroids, and I think they could have been more lenient, because then I figured through time, I think fighters were seeing they were being put in an impossible loop that, you know, they almost had to send their food off to the UFC company to test it before they even ate it. And that's how scared fighters were.
Yeah. And I mean, one example is, okay, I have a vape, just regular vape. If it got contaminated with THC and I pop for THC, it's going to be a very, very low amount. It's not going to be like I was, you know, smoking all day, every day. There's different levels to it. So if John Jones or anybody else who got contaminated stuff, it would have to be fully contaminated. It wasn't from not washing the bins or, you know, any other reason. If they popped for a full amount, it was a full amount taken.
Are you positive about that?
Which
Well,
part?
About it has to be, you know, fully. If it's not as trace, you won't get popped for traces.
no, you can get popped for traces, but they would be able to see the amounts. I'll give you an example. I'm in court now, and a guy's going through this because he hit the wrong vape on accident and it had THC.
Mhm.
So it came back with just a little bit. And they were like, we can tell you're not a daily smoker or user of marijuana because it was just this little bit.
So wouldn't that help John Jones's case when he got caught with like a picogram, which is less than putting like a salt in the middle of the sea?
Now, the way I understood that one is you're allowed to have X amount of whatever chemical in your body because that's what's natural or not. Maybe it was. Maybe he got just enough to put him over. They should look at that on a case-by-case basis. If he was way over, yeah, he's doing something. If he was right there at the border, it could be contamination. So, I mean, I'll give him that, but I think we would have heard, you know, he can say it was that much, but has anybody else from, you know, USADA or somewhere say, yeah, he was barely over. He barely was within a picogram.
But I think they recently implemented like new rules. USADA maybe like a year or so ago, maybe less than that, where if John Jones would have got caught with that amount, it wouldn't even got out to the public because they went back and retroactively fixed something like that, even though they haven't done his record or anything. They haven't messed with his record, but they said retroactively that he wouldn't have popped or something like that.
Right. But still, I mean, it's, you know, it was set. That was the rules at the time. You can't go back and change that, you know, even though they've updated the rules to include that. It's like anything else. It's, you know, if you got a speeding ticket for 60 miles an hour in a 55 zone 10 years ago, and then this year they raised the speed limit to 65 there, that doesn't get rid of your speeding ticket from back then.
Yeah, that's kind of like apples to oranges comparison, though, because like a lot of times where a lot of people in jail are in there for weed, I know a lot of times they gotten pardoned by Biden now that weed's legal in a lot of places. So.
Right, and they got let out of jail whenever they updated it, but John Jones had already served his suspension. You can't give his time back.
What about putting that win back on his record? You can do that.
He's only got one loss on his record.
He's got a no contest or something like that against Daniel Cormier.
Oh, that one, yeah, go for it. Put it back on.
Yeah, that's
put it back as win.
That's all I'm saying, because I think it's bullshit that Reggie Bush got his Heisman taken away, and now everybody's making money off of the internet, the intellectual property, and all of that hoopla in college football now. NIL is what they call it. That's the word I was looking for. But I don't know, man. Do y'all think that, because you touched on it a little bit earlier, Amar, you think this new system that the UFC is going to put in place will work? Because like you said, it may be a conflict of interest, but what I do agree on, I don't know if this new program they're going to put in place, it should be exceptions to, if like you're injured, you should be able to get an exemption to take stuff that's going to get your leg healed back all the way. And you should be able to remove yourself from the pool. Like Conor McGregor had that devastating injury. You should be able to pull yourself out so you can heal. I mean, you're not taking something, you got to have common sense. The goal, if you want to cheat, is to be able to beat your opponent. Like, if you're taking HGH or something, but if you're taking something just so you can heal the train, they should use their common sense when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a little bit different, but you've seen the UFC play favorites towards certain people already. Not just with drugs or anything related to that, but just playing favorites in general, letting people get away with certain things, not letting other people get away with the same thing. Are they gonna, if it's coming down to fight week and McGregor's on a card and he pops dirty, are they gonna cancel a big, if they're doing a 80,000 seat arena, are they going to pull him, or are they just going to slide it under the rug? That's what you got to worry about. Just like, WWE, when they did it, are they going to pull out their biggest superstars if they pop dirty, or are they going to sweep it under the rug?
Steve?
Right. Like I said, I actually, fighters and athletes pertain to that. I feel sorry for Conor, just like as far as the aspect of healing an injury and Mike taking, you got to take steroids sometimes as an athlete to recover faster, like Anderson Silva. And I felt like Silva got popped for one of those reasons because, you have to imagine with a break like that, he tried to do something quick. And I think it took him what was it?
So he broke his leg in December of 2013, and then he came back, I want to say January of 2015 to fight Diaz.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little over a year.
And Conor's trying to do it. Conor hasn't been issued a fight yet, but he's in the pool, right?
They said allegedly he went back in the pool, but who knows what's going to happen now that this partnership has ended.
And has that been 2 years?
Yeah, he fought like July of 2021, I want to say. It's been a while.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure he did some juicing to heal. That's somebody's worrying about their not only career, but the rest of their life too. And like you said, I think there needs to be more leniency on injuries like that.
Yeah. So like Amar said, you can't have special exceptions for certain fighters, but you could lay out the rules. I don't know if they will do this. Be like, there's exemptions for certain things. If you have a devastating injury where you could do this, but we're not going to have special rules just because you're a Conor McGregor or whoever, John Jones or whoever you want to say. But we do have exceptions to certain rules, but you just got to lay it out and just don't do it things by just because you want to do it. So
I'm gonna add this one last thing. And people say the integrity of UFC, but we got to look at the integrity of USADA and see if we got a maniac that sort of gets off on popping people to where they went as far to get Diaz out for 5 years. So we got to look at those type of people and see these people in power who have ego problems, because that was unnecessary to me. So that's another thing to look at.
Yeah,
it's true. Making sure it's fair if somebody does get popped, and don't over abuse their power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with that technology nowadays, I don't know. Not all things come equally as far as substances that are banned? Because I want to say, isn't certain types of caffeine banned from USADA or something like that? I know Adderall is, and you might have ADD.
Yeah, there's a lot of random stuff like that that's banned.
Kevin Lee, something like I don't know if it's my memory. I think didn't he get popped for something like that? Some Adderall or something?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. Like I said, certain drugs that shouldn't be banned are on the list. I understand why. I guess if you're hyped up on Adderall, you just walk in there like a zombie and take more damage, I guess. That's what they're saying. Not gonna make you fight better, but I guess you'd be able to take a bunch of damage being all ramped up on.
They need to make two different divisions. The clean division and just do all the steroids and all the drugs you want division.
Heads will roll.
Kind of like bodybuilding. You got the clean division and the natural division.
Yeah, just do it. I mean, let people get as roided out as they want and fight.
You should let people take like bath salts too and just rip people's faces off.
Yeah, like LSD, acid, like just whatever they want.
Yeah, end up like Bisping.
Hey, you're welcome, USC. You're welcome, USC. We just gave y'all $1 million idea. Let's make it happen. But we're gonna take a quick break and then we'll come back with more stories and then finally get into this card here on Haymaker Combat Sports.
Jay. Maybe. We got 3.5 minutes. I don't think Jay's at his computer to send us to break.
Yeah, so we might get forced off here.
Oh, sorry, I'm here. I'm here.
We'll be back.
Take us to break.
Sorry.
I bet she didn't think twice about Amarillo. Hell, Denver all but once crossed her mind. She's flying down 40 like a bat out of hell from Memphis. She left me all alone in Montgomery tonight. Railed out in Raleigh, tag teamed up in Tennessee. Ain't up in Austin, but fucking Boston. Give a neck down in New Orleans. Getting me through hell, fucking someone else. Now I'm on my knees, praying she'll come back, give me that sweet ass. But I already know that she's getting dick down in Dallas. Well, she's probably in the Lone Star State, sucking on for what's his name. I wonder what her daddy'd say. Maybe he's the one to blame. She's getting dick down in Dallas, railed out in Raleigh, tag teamed up in Tennessee. Ain't no in Austin, but fucking Boston. Giving Nick down to New Orleans, putting me through hell, fucking someone else. I'm on my knees, praying she'll come back, give me that sweet ass. But I already know that she's getting dick down in Dallas. Yeah, dick down in Dallas. Dick down in Dallas,
New Orleans.
And welcome back to Haymaker Combat Sports. So, Admire, any news stories come across your feed?
Well, I was going to touch on the USADA, so you got that. I mean, I think we have to acknowledge Dillon Danis is never going to have a pro fight ever again.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? Like, that dude just burned so many bridges and fucked up any future fights, any promotions that would have been interested in him. Like, what a shit show. I mean, did you watch it?
Of course I did. I don't even know where to start with this one. Did you watch this, Steve?
I zoomed out. Who you're talking about?
Dillon Danis versus
Oh, yeah.
Logan Paul this past weekend.
I saw clips. I didn't get to see it.
Man, you know, we've discussed this before. We're not opposed to the circus fights, but this was just
that wasn't even circus, man. That was, I don't even know what you call it. Like,
I heard both of them, both fights.
yeah. I was distracted with the KSI versus Tommy Fury, so I got to go back and watch that one. I was in and out on my phone and looking up and watching other stuff, but from what I saw, it wasn't that much action in that one. They said KSI got robbed. I don't know. If you're Tommy Fury, you got to take care of a YouTuber. But back to the Dillon Danis, this whole hoopla leading up to this fight, we talked about it on the boxing show a little bit. I mean, I don't know. It was just a shit show from the beginning. And I don't know, did I ask you about this, Admire? Did you think that trash talk between Danis and Logan Paul's fiance, Nina Agdal, you think that was in pocket or out of pocket?
man, it was one of those things where I wouldn't have done it, but I paid attention. You know, when a couple's fighting on Facebook, it's like, man, I'd never do that, but you're tuned in watching all the comments and shit. You know, maybe he took it a little far, but I mean, he did use stuff that was publicly posted. So I can kind of see both sides of it. I don't respect it now, especially since Danis had his chance to fight and, you know, back it all up in the ring and did absolutely nothing and just looked like a fucking clown. So, yeah, I hope he gets sued now.
So I saw you posted before the fight, the pre-conference where they were face to face, and it looked like he threw a punch, but I think it turns out he threw something at him and cut him open.
Dillon Danis had the microphone in his hand and swung down at him, and that little block that's on the microphone scratched Paul's nose.
Man, so that's when I'm like, man, maybe this wasn't all show, and maybe they do have some real bad blood because he cut him open. But you never know. Like, they might even agree to that. Like, all right, you take a shot at me. I don't care.
But Danis is a punk, man. Like, all that shit talk that he did. And then he even said that, you know, if Paul beat him, that he could take his purse, you know, take all the money. And he's went back on that, like everything. Danis is just a clown, man. And nobody's going to give him a chance because this dude just had how many months to train to do anything. And he walked in that ring and didn't know what he was doing and tried to fucking take down.
Yeah, he was just clowning with that one. But I think I asked you about this before, Steve, but what were your thoughts on the lead up to the actual fight?
Well, if man, I guess it was terrible way the fight went out for Dillon, but as far as the worst end of that, I mean, Logan, it's either if that was for a promotion, you have no dignity for the outside world as far as your own relationship. And if it was real, damn, nobody would want their relationship or their woman's business out there publicly. I don't know. Was it good for what they got the promotion to be and the fighters to people to look at the fight? Yeah, but I think it was it was all beneficial to promote. Like you said, Dillon is a piece of crap, and probably will do anything to antagonize a promotional chance. So if that's the way they do that, maybe that's why some of their fights, maybe they're running out of people to actually have a beef with, or to even engage in a promotional thing like that, unless they have a big name, or else who's ever suckered in again to not have skills to fight a person that's been boxing.
So, you know what they say, any press is good press. And I'll give Danis this. He's a grade A troll. I think he knows what he's doing when it comes to promotion. Because like you said, he went far, far left as far as getting underneath Logan Paul's skin, if it was real. And, they got eyes on the fight, and it did exactly what he wanted. It was getting clicks on whatever social media platforms. It was getting put on ESPN and all that hoopla. So, I mean, if I'm Danis, like, why wouldn't I do this again? Y'all were paying for it.
And I just looked it up. Danis made $1 million for that fight.
Yeah, $1 million for just showing up, literally. So, like, why would he do it again? And as far as the actual fight goes, I mean, we all knew he wasn't going to go in there and look like Sugar Ray Leonard or anything. He's a jiu-jitsu guy. So I don't know what we expected as far as the actual fight. And I mean, if you're Logan Paul, you should have got him out of there, actually. He was...
And yeah, I was going to say, I think Danis, I mean, I don't know the official numbers, but I think he landed like 9 punches or something the whole fight. Like, Paul had every opportunity to get that guy out of there and couldn't do it. So, I mean, it shows how bad fucking Logan Paul is as well.
And it seems like, from what I remember, because I only watched it once, wasn't Danis like kind of make it ugly? Even though he wasn't throwing punches, he was like trying to get in his face, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He's like trying to make it dirty. He tried to make it like kind of like a dirty boxing, like rushing him a lot. So maybe that threw Logan Paul off some. But yeah, it was not a good fight. Like you said, Danis only landed like 7 punches the whole fight. It was a 6-rounder at that. That's how you know it's like a circus fight, when they only have 6 rounds. I'm surprised that Tommy Fury fight, it had only 6 rounds, because he's supposed to be legit. But it did have KSI on the other side, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that exhibition fights like that, I think, go 6 rounds. But
so it wasn't a pro.
I don't think so. I don't think
it was a pro, but it wasn't a official fight. It was an exhibition, kind of like what Floyd does.
Right. And I mean, Tommy Fury, I haven't seen anything out of him that makes him great. He's fighting YouTubers. I
mean, I think Tommy Fury gets all his genetics from his mom's side. He's not a big boy like Tyson is.
Right.
He's like, 6 foot, 6'1", and Tyson Fury is a mountain of a man.
Yeah.
But so let me ask this. Y'all don't think Danis will get another high profile fight after this?
No way. No way. Unless it's against like a fucking YouTuber. I can see Danis and KSI fighting. He'll get circus fights, but he's not going to, for being as good of a jiu-jitsu and ground fighter guy that he is, he's not going to get accepted into a legit organization.
Steve?
I don't think so. Especially not a boxing one. Maybe going back to MMA, did he do pretty good? He did pretty good in MMA, didn't he?
I think he only had like 2 fights, maybe, if that. Mm-hmm. You'd have to look that up, Admire. I don't think he's fought that much. And I think he was signed to Bellator. I don't even know if he fought in Bellator.
I know he was signed to them, or he might have been with Strikeforce before they folded.
That would have to have been a long time ago. I don't know if
he's had 2 pro MMA fights, both Bellator, 2018, 2019. He won both by submission.
Okay, so I mean, Bellator is like what it used to be, the second best organization. I don't know. PFL's been kind of nipping at their heels, so that's credible. I mean, I don't know if y'all saw this. He was talking about UFC signing him after this boxing fight. Y'all don't think that UFC would get in bed based on his relationship with Conor McGregor?
Nah. Nah, yeah, he's too much of a risk at this point. They don't know if he's going to take shit serious or not. I know that he's done like submission grappling and stuff like that, but for being as highly regarded as people talk about him, his submission grappling game isn't even. I mean, his record isn't that good. He's 5-4 in submission grappling.
I mean, submission grappling is a little bit different on that level than from MMA grappling. So I'll give him that. I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit, but that's different if he were to get in a UFC cage. Like you said, he had a 2-0 record in Bellator. Probably against some tomato cans, but
against two guys that don't have Wikipedias.
Well, Steve, you don't think UFC would give him a shot?
Maybe. But as far as Dillon, I think he's just reminiscing off his golden era age of probably Conor was rising the star, and then he's probably still trying to catch up to, probably Conor's and his thought to be upcoming success. And I think he's been trying to chase it ever since, or has a false image of, of a rock star. And I don't see him. I don't see Dana having any interest in him.
Yeah, and both his MMA fights were catch weights at 175. His walk around weight, it says here, is he's 6 foot tall and he walks around at 180. So he's kind of stuck, between classes.
Man, I didn't realize he was that big. I thought for some reason I got a picture in my head that he was Henry Cejudo's size for some reason.
No, he's a big dude. 6 foot 180 with a 72-inch reach.
Yes. What did he fight? You said it was catchweight. Both of his Bellator fights were catchweight.
Catchweight at 175 on both.
So he needs to be a welterweight then, probably. If you said he walks around at 180, he used to be fighting at 170. He might be if he were disciplined, he might be able to cut down the lightweight. If he walks around at 180, it's like a 30-pound cut.
He don't come off as a guy that would want to cut a lot of weight or really put a lot of effort in. I mean, and that's just based on what we just saw from him. I mean, you have a chance in front of, let's admit it, it was a big fucking event. He had a chance to go out and shine and show that he tried, at least put up a good fight, put on a show. And he could have made a lot more than what he's going to make now.
Yeah, I mean, but he was doing a whole different entire sport. So, I mean, maybe he couldn't do it. Maybe he didn't have the tools to actually execute it because he's not a boxer.
If you tell me you're going to give me $1 million to go box in 4 months, I'm trading my ass off every day, because what if I win? I'm kind of on the map. It sets me up for future shit.
Yeah, it's different though. Like a lot of the guys, I'll do a football analysis. A lot of guys look good in practice and look like $1 million, but then when the bright lights turn on, they look like they hadn't catched a pass in a day. So maybe he was looking good in training, and then when he got under the spotlight, he just folded. Who knows? But I'm probably going to go on more of the side that you said he probably didn't really train like that for this fight, because it's Dillon Danis. What is Dillon Danis's official position with Conor McGregor? Is he just his training partner, or is he actually his jiu-jitsu instructor?
I don't know, because Danis is from New Jersey. I don't know how they linked up. I don't know if it was. Let me see if I can find who his jiu-jitsu coach is.
Didn't Kavanaugh give him that belt? I want to say Kavanaugh gave him his black belt. We talked about that. I know we talked about that.
Oh, sure. Danis was brought in to help Conor McGregor train for the rematch against Nate Diaz. Continued to work with McGregor, helping him prepare for Khabib.
So he's basically just a teammate
Yeah. He's like a jiu-jitsu coach, kind of partner.
Yeah, well, whatever he's done has been able to propel him in the spotlight. But I think I'm gonna side with you, Admire. I don't think he probably gets another opportunity to get a fight on that level. I mean, I think the PFL will pick him up for sure. And who knows, man? Dana White's made weirder signings than him if he were to sign him.
I was gonna say I could see PFL just doing it. Need another name with recognition.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll see how that shakes out. Steve, did anything come across your feed?
No, not at all. Not as far as for Dillon.
Anything in general as far as any MMA stories inside or outside the cage?
That's the main one that pops in my mind. No.
I got one more.
What's that, Admire?
We are 9 days away from another boxer versus MMA fighter. Fury versus Ngannou comes up in 9 days.
And we did a full preview on that on Haymaker Combat Sports Boxing Edition last week. What were your thoughts of that fight going into it?
It's boxing, man. It's Tyson Fury's world. You know, Ngannou's always going to have that lucky shot. You know, he's heavy-handed, but he's got to land it. Plus, Fury's been hit by Deontay Wilder. He's taken his best shots. There's a lot of talk about Ngannou, you know, the pressure and the stuff behind his punches, but you have a guy like Wilder that's all he trained. Wilder is a boxer. He has to be one of the hardest hitting guys in the world, and Fury did take his punches. He did get knocked down, almost got counted out, but Ngannou's got to land it. That's the thing. And Tyson Fury, for a big guy, has very good movement. That's his bread and butter. I'll say Fury 3 rounds.
Fury 3 rounds. So now we have my official prediction. If you want to hear me, Steve, and Chris's prediction, go back and listen to episode 22, where we recap Canelo and previewed the Fury fight. So check that out. So let's get into this card that's taking place this weekend, because this card hasn't, had the smoothest path to get to this. UFC 294 in Abu Dhabi. And before we get to the madness behind how this card came into fruition, let's go through this prelim card. And
I wish you the best of luck.
A lot of these fighters are not from America. You have some Russian fighters over there and some fighters from Europe and Middle East, and I think maybe even from South Asia. So let's get into it, guys. We got in the middleweight division on the prelims, we got Sherabudin Magomedov versus Bruno Silva. In the women's strawweight, we got Victoria Dudikova versus Yin Yufrey. And Yin Yufrey, you think she's probably from Asia. She was born and raised in Arkansas girl. And in the featherweight division, we got Nathaniel Wood versus Muhammad Naimov. And we got Mike Breeden versus Anshul Jubilee. In the middleweight division, we got Abu Azatar versus Shadikra Dumas. In the bantamweight division, we got Javid Basharat versus Victor Henry. The lightweight division, we got Muhammad Yahya versus Trevor Peak. And then the featured main event of the prelims, we got Tim Elliott versus Muhammad Mokaev. Any of these fights pique your interest, fellas?
Of course, the Tim Elliott fight does for me, but he's from Kansas City, so always got to watch his fights. He's been around the UFC and MMA forever, so he's always good to watch fight. So I'm excited for that. Other than that, not a lot of big star power on the undercard.
What about you, Steve? Any interested in any of these prelims cards?
None at all, like he said, except Tim Elliott, most recognizable person on the undercard. Do not see anybody that I think I've seen other than that.
Bruno Silva. He's been floating around the UFC for a little bit.
Well, Admire just touched on what I was going to talk about, but I was going to talk about the other fighter on that card, Gerald Butin Magomedov. It's a lot of hype around this guy. And fun fact, I don't know if y'all got to look this up. Maybe you can look it up now, Admire, and get more details. Apparently, this guy only has one eye. And I didn't know that was illegal, so I don't know how he got cleared to fight. Apparently, he's got a dead eye. But I remember watching one of his fights, and he's a violent guy. So I'm definitely going to go back. If I don't get to watch it live, I'll definitely go back and watch his fight. Because, middleweight is a division where it could be good or it could be bad. So it's always good to look for the next stars in that division. And I can see the wheels turning on Admire's screen.
Oh man, his eye looks fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah, apparently he has a dead eye, but remember Michael Bisping had that one eye, and he said he hid it from the commission, so it's known that this guy has a dead eye, so maybe he got some exemption, but it seems like that's pretty dangerous because if something's coming from your blind side, you could get pretty messed up in there in the cage.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a pretty dead eye, but I don't know if he's completely blind in it.
I mean, that might be a fact. If it's a dead eye, but it's got some type of vision in it. But I don't know. Me and Steve talked about this before with Michael Bisping's eye. I mean, Steve, you were explaining the dangers of fighting with one eye. I don't know if you wanted to touch on that again.
Oh yeah. Can't quite specific rememberly, but I was thinking of Bisping. If the only way you pull that off is having a glass eye, and did he pop it out before he fought? Because if you get hit hard enough, I don't know how thick the glass eye is, but getting hit. Shit, that's an open. And I think Bisping has it to where his eyeball's not there. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's the his whole empty space there. What did you have in mind?
I just think fighting with one eye, it could be as dangerous as somebody plastering their gloves if you getting getting hit on that side where you can't see. I feel like you take a lot of damage. So
you got to think if they're blind in one eye and they're still fighting, they're specifically training to watch that side because that's going to be an automatic target. It's still going to be a handicap to them because when they're fighting, they're kind of turned a little bit. The high kick, the big looping punches coming around from that side, it makes it very dangerous. So they got to kind of fight with their head turned a little bit more, I would think, so they can kind of keep their good eye, in the line of sight.
This opens Pandora's box. Why ain't they hire that dude who had one arm? I think there's an argument about that. They didn't get him in there.
He was on the Nick Newell or something like that.
Yeah, Nick Newell.
Yeah. Was it one arm or one leg?
I think it was one arm.
It was one arm, and he was a pretty decent wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
They tried. I mean, they gave him a shot. He just lost on that Contender Series. So if he would have won, he probably would have been in. Yeah, I mean, if you could fight, you could fight. I guess no matter your deficiency or your handicap. So, but that seems pretty dangerous with the one eye thing. But I'm definitely gonna be checking out this fight. But let's get into this main card, fellas. On the curtain jerk of this one, we got another Nurmagomedov. It's Saeed Nurmagomedov, no relation to Habib and the cousins. Well, I know one of the cousins is in UFC and the other one's in Bellator. Versus Muin Gafurov in the bantamweight division. and we will do the predictions like we always do. Not sure if producer Jay is here, but if he is, we'll take his prediction as well. What do y'all think about this fight, fellas?
I have a hard time betting against anybody with that last name. So give me Saeed.
Steve.
What I'm seeing familiar is I was gonna go with Saeed, but then again, I remember Islam had a fight with a dude, I can't remember his name, but he was from the same country, Tajikistan, and they had a good wrestling battle. I don't know if y'all remember that, and they went all 3 rounds. It was a back and forth transitional wrestling match. To say that, it looks like some good wrestlers are coming out of Tajikistan, too. So I'm gonna throw one in the air and say one I've seen more consistent in those Russians coming out of there with that Sambo wrestling. So I'll go with Saeed.
So y'all both have Saeed, and I'm gonna go with Amaya. You don't bet against Nurmagomedov, even though relation to Habib. So I'm gonna go with Saeed Nurmagomedov as well. So, and producer Jay, you there? Producer Jay is off, preoccupied. So we'll get his picks later and count it. But in the middleweight division, we have Ikram Aliskerov versus Warley Alves. I've seen some Ikram's fights, and he's a pretty solid fighter. I can't recall who he last faced. I have it up here somewhere. The last fight that he had was back in, was it last year? Or was it this year?
Let me see.
So it was against Phil Hawes, and he knocked him out. Yeah, so I remember that fight now because I thought Phil Hawes had that one. So, I mean, he's on a, 6-fight winning streak. So I'm going to go with Ikram. And Alves, he's no slouch. So, well, he lost his last 2 fights. So,
he's lost 4 of his last 6.
Yeah. So once you start losing, that's kind of like the snowball effect. So, give me Ikram.
Same. Yep. I'm going to go with Ikram.
Same here.
So we all got Ikram in this fight. All right. Next in the light heavyweight division, we got Magomed Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker. And this one should be a banger. Ankalaev, he had a failed attempt at that UFC light heavyweight title when he had that draw against Blachowicz. And we know Johnny Walker, he's always an exciting guy. And it seems like now that he got in Conor McGregor's camp, he's kind of switched it up and it's been more calculated. This fight might be a hard one to pick, fellas. Ugh.
That is a tough one to pick.
But let me put this out there though. Ankalaev, before he had that draw, he was on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fight winning streak. So can't forget about that.
And the only thing I'm thinking with this matchup is that Johnny Walker is mostly a striker, and you're coming in there against a guy that has a lot of knockouts in Magomed, but he's also a Sambo wrestler that you can't. I think this fight is set up for the Sambo wrestler to shine. So I can't pick Johnny Walker in this, man. I got to go with Magomed.
Ooh, who you got, Steve?
I'm going for Ankalaev.
Okay.
Johnny hasn't been consistent on his stand-up. He's working his last few fights. He's been kind of struggling on a wrestling defense or working up from getting taken down. I have more faith in Ankalaev versus his consistency in his wrestling and his stand up. And I think the stand up, I think they'll most likely do that, which we got two explosive fighters. So I think whatever's going to happen is going to be explosive, but the odds are for Ankalaev for me.
Okay, so do y'all think the winner of this fight will set themselves up for that light heavyweight title fight, which we'll be previewing next month?
I think you have to. Yeah, I don't see anybody else really up there. I think that's the best move.
Steve, what do you think? Because we got a fight next month between who's fighting for that vacant belt. It's a middleweight challenger who just lost to what you call it. He lost to Izzy.
Oh yeah,
Alex Pereira versus the former champion.
What is it? Shit. Oh, Jiri.
Yuri Prohash. So y'all saying the winner of this fight probably should get the winner of Yuri and Alex Pereira?
I think so, because you got Magomed at number 2, Johnny Walker's at number 7. If Johnny Walker wins, I mean, that shoots him all the way to the top. And, I think we've talked about it before that Johnny Walker, we'd like to see him fight for the title. I don't think we've ever said he'd win it, but, it would be nice to see him at the big show.
Yeah. And I don't know if y'all have gotten an update. What's the status on Jamal Hill's injury? I'm sure he'll probably get an instant title shot once he heals up. That's a Achilles. That's nothing to play with. I remember Kobe Bryant, he had that Achilles and took him a while to bounce back. And like we saw Aaron Rodgers with the Achilles. So, but he's talking about trying to play this season in the playoffs, which I doubt.
It's probably gonna be a while on Jamal Hill. I mean, I think that happened back in like July or something, didn't it?
Yeah, I want to say it happened. Was it still spring? I want to say it happened in spring or maybe even winter, man. Playing basketball, pick up basketball. I think it might have been a charity basketball game, but nonetheless, got injured doing something outside of training, which is not a
it was in July. It was in July. He announced it. Ruptured his Achilles tendon, so I don't know how long that takes. I mean, I'm guessing he would be out a year, so we probably won't see Jamal back till the summer.
Maybe spring if he kind of speeds up the process. Who knows? But once it's healed, you still got to actually go in camp. So you're probably right. It probably won't be until the summer. But I didn't make my pick. I also have Magomed Ankalaev winning this one. So far, we've been all picking the same people to win. So maybe we'll have different picks when we talk about the co-main event and the main event. But we will take a quick break and we will be right back here on Haymaker Combat Sports.
Brown pretend where the fun ain't got no end. Oh, can't go home alone again. Need someone to numb the pain. Oh, staying near my play pretend where the fun ain't got no end. Oh, can't go home alone again. Need someone to numb the
And
pain.
welcome back to Haymaker Combat Sports. So now we will get into the co-main event and the main event. Let's talk about how we got to this point. So originally, co-main event was supposed to be Khamzat Chimaev versus Paulo Acosta, and the main event was supposed to be Islam Makhachev versus Alex Oliveira. So Paulo Acosta, I don't know if it was like a week ago or so, he had elbow surgery or something ridiculous like that, and he called out of the fight. And y'all could correct me if I'm wrong. I think Oliveira, he had a cut sparring or something like that, and he had to pull out.
Yep.
So before we talk about the replacement fights, do y'all think this is a problem? We talked about this before, but is it a ongoing, growing problem where these fights are getting canceled, like so close to when the fight's supposed to happen?
Yeah. I mean, we've always had stuff like that, but I thought it had gotten better. You know, I don't know why you're sparring so hard a week out to get a cut that bad. You know, the way I understand it, you know, believe it or not, I'm not an MMA fighter, but usually about the last week or two leading up to the fight is when they really take it easy. They work on conditioning still, but they're not really doing a lot of striking. That's just from what I understand. Costa, I don't know exactly what all happened with him, but obviously something serious if he instantly had to have surgery. So I don't know.
Steve, I don't know if you know what kind of surgery did Costa have? I thought it was elbow. I might be wrong.
I think it had to do with his elbow. And he
Like
tried, I guess he planned to try to think it would heal weeks out before, and decided it wasn't going to happen.
Oh, Paulo Costa got staph infection in his elbow.
ooh,
Mm.
okay,
That's
so
what it was.
I kind of made light of it. That's something serious. My bad. Yeah, staph infection. I mean, I don't think there's no way you could predict that happening. So maybe it's just bad luck. I mean, I don't know. I feel like all of these unfortunate events keep happening to Costa, but I hadn't really taken him seriously since Adesanya humped him in the butt. That's what I'm like, all right, so I might be off this Costa train. But he hasn't fought a lot since then. I don't know if you could pull this up, Admire. How many times has Paulo Costa fought since he faced Izzy? I mean, because I don't have that in front of me because I got the fighters for this fight.
Wasn't his last fight Rockhold?
Yeah, he beat Rockhold
so he beat
last.
Rockhold.
And then before that, he fought Vettori, and Vettori won.
So just 2 fights since then.
Yeah.
And that Adesanya fight, that was what, 2020, 2019?
2020. It was exactly 3 years ago.
So this guy hasn't fought all that much. So maybe just one of those injury-prone fighters. I mean, I don't know. And then
Costa's last fight was August 2022.
Yeah, so over a year now. And then Oliveira, that sounds like a freak accident. But like Admire was saying, why are you sparring so hard where you get a cut that big before 2 weeks out before the fight, or a week and a half, or whenever he called out?
Without headgear.
I don't know. That just seems pretty foolish to me. But do you think Oliveira will be put back in his position once he heals? Do y'all think he will get a shot at the winner once we talk about this main event?
I think he has to, just because he's been at the top for quite some time. He's beat mostly everybody. I think Dana White isn't going to hold anything against him and keep him out of, coming back at the top. Oliveira, what's his losses? His recent loss was to Islam.
Mhm.
And then his last loss before that was 2017. I mean, he's beat the who's who of the lightweight division. So I
I
don't
might
think
be
this
wrong.
hurts him.
I might be wrong. I want to say he hasn't lost that lightweight. Because he was at featherweight beforehand, before he lost to Makachev. He went, like you said, he went on a hell of a streak. So I don't see any other fight they would probably put him in, unless they want to go ahead and do an eliminator with him and Justin Gaethje. But those two already fought each other, or did they?
They already fought, I believe. Hold on, I got to pull it up here, but I
'Cause I
think
always-
Oliveira beat him.
Because I always mix up Oliveira, because he definitely beat Dustin.
Yeah,
I always
Oliveira
mix-
submitted Gaethje.
Yeah, so I don't know. So Gaethje might be the one that doesn't benefit off of this. He might be the one screwed by this.
Yeah, I mean,
most.
Oliveira's beat Beneil Dariush, Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler, Tony Ferguson, Kevin Lee. Like, he's beat all the top guys in that division. Like, no reason to reset him over an injury when he's already put in the work.
Hey, you forgot one top guy he hasn't beat yet. Your boy McGregor.
I'd love to see that fight, honestly.
You would? I don't think it would end well for McGregor.
I don't think it would, but I don't know. Charles Oliveira used to be just like this average fighter back in the day, and then he always good on the ground, and he started working on his stand-up. I'd like to see him stand and bang with McGregor.
I think he was saying Gregor in the La La Land. Like you said, I don't think McGregor trains like that. He's on the yacht. He don't have time to train like that.
Right.
But so UFC picked up the bat phone and they called no other but Kamaru Usman to step in for this co-main event to face Khamzat Chimaev. So what were y'all's first thoughts when they announced this replacement fight?
My first thought was that it's a quick turnaround for Usman, but it's kind of not. I mean, that happened back in March when he lost to Edwards. So it's been 7 months, 8 months, something like that. But, you know, that's not a long layoff. It's not a short turnaround. It's just about right. I don't know if mentally Usman is ready. I know he wants to get back to the top. So he's definitely going to take the fight, you know, especially with the implications and everything that it has going on. I like it. I mean, I don't think there was really anybody else available and that was going to have that big of a name.
Steve?
Yeah, I can see it. And I think he was even having talks to even going up in middleweight, especially when Israel
Lost to Strickland?
Lost to Strickland, which means I think if he wins, there'd be no reason to go a long way. I think he has a plan, maybe with Dana, to where if he wins this fight, he'll get catapulted up. And like you said, Strickland saying to that, he beat him in welterweight. So boom, I think he's getting his middleweight chance of getting 2 belts, you know, in a window where it's possible.
To be honest, fella, I really didn't like this matchup when I first heard it. I mean, I like it at welterweight, but they're doing it at middleweight. I know Chimaev not Chimaev. Yeah, Chimaev. I was mixing him up with Makachev. It's easy to mix them up in my head. Chimaev, he missed weight at welterweight, so they kind of forced him up to middleweight. And then you have Usman. They said Usman was always flirting with middleweight, but if you look at him, man, he's not a big. He looks kind of big at welterweight, but he's like a tweener. I don't know if he's all the way there middleweight. And it's awesome that they're saving the fight card, but for who? For the UFC? So if you're Usman and you're going up to middleweight, you're coming off 2 title losses against Leon Edwards. And if you lose again, like, what does that do for you if you're Usman, besides save the UFC, who, if you lose too many fights, they're going to kick you to the curb anyway. So I don't know. I don't know about y'all thoughts on that, about what if Usman loses, like what does that do for him?
I don't think it does much to him, to his stock. I mean, he is going up. He is doing them a favor. I wanted to look up Usman's pay. Usman makes about 500,000 per fight. Stepping in to save the show, I imagine the UFC might, double it or bump it up a little bit. So, I mean, he's making a pretty good pay to do it as well. He's got a lot more to gain than lose. If he wins, he's up there in title contention at the middleweight. He saved the show. He's in the UFC's good graces. If he loses, he's just a guy that went up and still took the bag,
But then when you lose, like where do you go after that though? 3 losses in a row?
But it's a different division. I don't think that this loss shouldn't knock him down or discredit anything he's done at welterweight. Throw him back in the welterweight pool if he loses at middleweight. I don't know. He is a decent sized guy. Like you said, he's kind of, if there was like a 175 division, he would be great for it. He's a little bit big for welterweight, but he's a little bit small for middleweight.
Yeah. Steve, like, what do you think? Like, you think Usman should have put his record on the line just to save his card? Like, what happens if he loses?
Right. It's a hell of a risk. Like I said, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have done it to get paid. And like I said, it's a double-edged sword. If he does win, he can play around, say, hey, Usman, you going back to welterweight, middleweight, and decide based off of who's still middleweight champion. I think Usman can get that win off of Strickland based off of how bad he beat him, although it was a long time ago. I haven't seen Strickland be a wrestler anytime soon. I think that might be plausible for Usman to win that. But other than that, I think he's just playing the fence right now.
But then
out of an offer of like I said, he didn't ask for it. It was the fight was canceled and he got offered. So I think it was something that came down out of nowhere and made a choice in his career to, hey, I always wanted to do it, so he's going to try it now.
So going into your hypothetical though, say if he does get through Chimaev and some reason they make that fight between him and Strickland and he beats Strickland, he said it himself he'll never go against his homeboy Izzy for the title. So then what do you do?
Money talks, man.
Yeah.
I mean, does it though? Because we've seen it happen before where DC didn't fight Cain Velasquez, Funk Master Aljamain. He's never gonna fight his teammate. So,
but we have seen it happen. Who did John Jones fight that they left Jackson Winkle?
That was different. It was him against
Rashad Evans.
Yeah, Rashad Evans.
Yeah.
That's different because I don't think they were cool, but they weren't friends like that. They were just in the same camp. And it was always, I think, seeds of jealousy with that going on. But Izzy and Usman, they're like tight knit. So I don't think they would face each other. So,
well, maybe he took this fight just waiting to see what happens. That helps him make his decision.
We'll see. But let's get into who we actually think will win this fight. I'll let you kick it off, Admire.
I'm going to reverse engineer this one. So, Usman has never been taken down. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think he's ever been taken down. Usman has beat Colby Covington twice, who's one of the best wrestlers. Usman TKO'd Gilbert Burns. Usman beat Tyron Woodley, who's very highly ranked wrestler. So Usman was able to defend all that. He's fought RDA, Rafael Dos Anjos, Damian Maia, all that, everything that I just listed. Now, if we look at the resume of Chimaev, who is this guy beat? Kevin Holland by submission and Gilbert Burns by decision. I don't know anybody else that he's beat. The Gilbert Burns fight, Gilbert Burns rocked Chimaev a couple times.
That was a war.
I'm going Usman. I think Usman, I don't want to say finishes him, but it could happen. Yeah, I'm going Usman. As a side note, 3rd round TKO.
Okay. Steve?
I'm going with Usman also, just based off of how Burns was able to get him and how Usman was able to beat Burns. I think if Usman was in there with Chimaev, it would be a different tempo as far as attempting those grappling moments and trying for takedowns. I think it's a whole nother level, and I would have to go for Usman. Although I think this is a tough fight.
Okay. So both of y'all have Usman. So Am I talked about how Usman's never been taken down, but let's look on the flip side. Chimaev's not a guy that gets taken down a lot. For some reason, Usman in his fights with Leon Edwards, I don't know, he didn't go to the wrestling. And I think as far as takedown defense, I think Chimaev may be a different animal from Leon Edwards because he's a bigger guy. So I don't know if that wrestling will play a factor. And we know that Usman got better with the striking over the years because towards the end of his welterweight run, he was knocking dudes out. He sent our boy Jorge Masvidal into the fifth dimension back there in Jacksonville. But I don't know. Chimaev's a long dude. He's a long, rangy dude. I think he's going to stay out of the range and avoid those big punches from Usman. So I'm going to go with Chimaev by decision, unanimous decision. So this is the first fight where we all three don't have the same person. So let's go to the main event for the undisputed lightweight title. We have your champion, Islam Makhachev, versus the featherweight champion, Alexander Volkanovski, in a rematch. It's an immediate rematch for Islam because that's the last person he fought, but Volkanovski took a fight in between and beat Yair Rodriguez this past summer. Ooh, man, I don't know how I feel about this one either. We just saw this earlier this year, fellas. So what were y'all thoughts when they announced this fight?
I like this one. I like this fight just because, I mean, I don't know how much of the first one you remember between these two. I thought Volkanovski won based on strikes and damage, although, you know, I will admit that Volkanovski did not have the control the whole time. Makhachev had the majority control. I would have to rewatch it. From what I remember, Volkanovski, I thought won. Volkanovski, he's just a different animal. And I think he's a guy that took that loss, learned from it, made some adjustments. We saw what he did to Rodriguez. I got to take Volkanovski on this one. I can't bet against him.
So, you're predicting new lightweight champion, double champ, Volkanovski.
And another reason I'm going with that is Makhachev has been knocked out one time before. His second fight in the UFC, he did get knocked out. So we know it can happen, and we know Volkanovski is heavy-handed.
In the words of Chappelle, that was weeks ago, motherfucker. That was years. That was years ago.
It was years ago. As a matter of fact, that was 8 years ago. Exactly 8 years ago.
Volkanovski caught him twice in that fight.
Yeah, but he didn't finish him. I
No,
get
no,
it.
not at all. But yeah, he has potential to catch him.
Yes, but what were your thoughts when they made this fight, Steve?
Not excited for it. I feel like I've seen it. And it seems like Volkanovski's size. I mean, he can see that he does it, but I would like to see the. I don't think he can get down that low. But just seeing it, and I'm going for Volkanovski just because I've seen it again. But don't
Really?
see anything different other than the possibility of catching him.
Okay. So you got Volkanovski as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in the same boat as Steve. Like, I didn't need to see this fight happen again so soon. And I get why they're making it. They want to save the card, but you're kind of bastardizing your featherweight champion by throwing them back out there to the wolves to your lightweight champion, who a lot want to put on the top of that pound for pound list. Even though I know Volkanovski, a lot of people have him number one, but they got Makachev knocking on that door. But we all know John Jones is the king. But I digress. Yeah, I don't like how they rushed back into this fight. I think they should have let this fight breathe, because when you do champion versus champion, it's technically supposed to be called a super fight. But how can we have a super fight when it happens again in the same calendar year? So they're kind of watering down what a super fight is.
Super rematch.
Yeah, it's a super rematch. But I mean, shouts out to Alexander Volkanovski for being brave and stepping up to a challenge, because he doesn't lose often. And when it's at featherweight, he's pretty untouchable. But going up 10 pounds, that's a different animal. I don't know, fellas. I think I gotta go with still your lightweight champion. He's the Habib's protege. So I'm gonna go with Islam to take this fight, because he's been in camp this whole time. I bet Volkanovski was out there skiing with Izzy a few weeks ago. So do y'all know if he's fight ready?
Dude's just a pure athlete. He's always ready, man. And I was reading up on him earlier before the show. Volkanovski used to fight at middleweight, man.
He was they remind us every fight. He used to be like 200 pounds when he was a rugby player and whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, but that was many moons ago. So you do lose muscle mass, and he's been cutting down for so long. But I don't know. Yeah. I mean, fighting is fighting. You know, back in the primal days of UFC, you'd fight 5 times in one night, and people would turn around the next week and fight. So
yeah,
if you go back to the basics, fighting is like muscle memory, but these guys are high level. It's different training nowadays. So getting off your couch, going to Abu Dhabi, we didn't talk about people have to travel, that long ass travel as well. So
yeah, I wonder when they did. I wonder when they traveled, just to get caught up with the time and stuff.
Probably even they usually do on Sunday when you watch those UFC embedded. They usually fly out there on Sunday, but to get acclimated to that time space, people probably are out there Friday, Saturday. Who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know. But there's definitely some fun fights that are gonna go on. Now they shuffle this card up some and had these last minute replacements. So this is Steve's chance to catch up with me in the record wise. If all his picks hit, I think he's only like 2 fights behind me. So we'll see what happens with that. I didn't even get a chance to look at the odds for these fights. I don't know if you have that in front of you, Admire.
I do. So just hitting the main card that we talked about. Saeed, he is a minus 185 favorite.
Okay.
Worley Alves is actually a favorite, minus 120. So it's a pretty close odds on that one.
Basically a pick 'em.
There's no odds showing for the Johnny Walker fight.
Interesting. Maybe that is a pick 'em.
Yeah. The Usman fight, not looking good. Chimaev is a minus 360 favorite to beat Usman.
Okay. So
I kind of
got the underdog.
I kind of feel like they should have thrown in the BMF title just to give Usman something to fight for.
Yeah, I mean, somebody just won it. JT just won it. They probably didn't want it. I think the unwritten rules is after you retire, then you pass it on.
Yeah. The main event, Makhachev versus Volkanovski. Am I reading that right? Fucking Makhachev is a minus 340 favorite, and they have Volkanovski at a plus 270. I'm probably going to have to lay some money on Volkanovski just because I think he's going to win, and the odds are there. You bet $100 on Volk, and you win 270.
Well, so Vegas says the odds are on my side, but sometimes Vegas don't know what they talk about. All it takes is one punch, so we'll see if y'all picks hit. But y'all fellas got anything before we get on out of here?
I got nothing. No 80 proof tonight for anybody who's here sticking around for that.
All right. Well, it will definitely be evening, not even an evening, an afternoon of fun fights this Saturday. And we will be back to recap that sometime this weekend, and be on the lookout on social media for the details on that. But that'll do it for us here at Haymaker Combat Sports. Until next time, be safe out there. Later.
You can get it all from us. Trust 5 stars cause it's live. And through the fight game we can guide ya. Slick talking, putting them in caution, passing all the guards cause the audio is awesome. What you waiting for? Spread the word, tell a friend. This the podcast where all of the discussion ends.